But Sean, let's move on into the next topic. And you know what else I just realized as we were in between recording these segments?
What's up?
Very NFC East heavy podcast today.
It is.
Going Giants with the first segment. I almost said first pick. Now we're going with the Dallas Cowboys. And the big news for them is last week they signed Allen Hurns, wide receiver, after the Jaguars cut him. So they get a 26-year-old, 4-year pro, only signed him to a 2-year deal. Now the interesting thing is, of course, this to me screams a signing to where it's like, all right, Terrence Williams, your time is probably up in Dallas. However, a lot of people are talking about how the question becomes, is Dez Bryant done when it comes to the Cowboys? So, thing I'm going to ask you to start it is, first off, about Allen Hurns, what do you think about that for the Cowboys? Do you like it, not like it? What do you think there? And then the meat and potatoes, what's Dez Bryant's future in Dallas?
Well, with Allen Hurns, Terrence Williams not only might not be there, he's also hurt. So he's dealing with an injury right now. So they needed another outside threat because they have Cole.
He can't get out of bounds anyway. So he'll stay in bounds and you'll lose to the Giants.
They also have Cole Beasley as well, who works inside the slot. So, I mean, they have weapons on the outside, and again, it's just going to make Dak's job easier, which then, again, is just going to open up running lanes for Zeke Elliott. Allen Hurns, I don't really know if he's a game changer, but we saw, again, that one crazy year where Blake Bortles was going off. Allen Robinson was healthy. Allen Hurns was healthy. Allen Hurns had a great year alongside Robinson. So, I mean, I think the potential's there. Again, he's young, only 26, like you said. I don't know if Dak is the right quarterback, but again, we saw Dak in his rookie year look absolutely fantastic, be close to a top 10 quarterback, if not a top 10 quarterback. And then last year, again, he didn't have Zeke. He really didn't have Dez Bryant playing like Dez can. Again, he doesn't really attack like Tony Romo used to do down the field. So we'll see if Dak makes those right progressions as a quarterback does throughout his 3 years, getting more confident throwing the ball down the field. But I think that's going to be a lot in Jason Garrett's development as well. I think that's a little bit on Garrett just because being a former quarterback, working with Tony Romo throughout his career in Dallas, I feel like he's got to start bringing that out in Dak and giving him more confidence because we know he's great, with his feet and also being able to throw within 20 yards, but it's really about hitting those home run plays, and we really haven't seen that from Dak with the arm. So I think that's really more on Jason Garrett. So I like the signing of Allen Hurns just because, again, he's young and has potential. I don't know if it will work out, but then again, if Terrence Williams comes back healthy, you still are just adding a fourth wide receiver who could possibly be dangerous. And he had a decent year last year, again, catching 2 touchdowns, 484 yards. So a decent year from Allen Hurns, but we saw better from him before. And then with the Dez side, I've never really viewed Dez as a top wide receiver. I know people might kill me on that.
Even with Romo?
Well, I mean, again, I think it's tough because the past 3 years he hasn't been Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is that it's tough to really go back and say, and really view how great he was. I know Cowboy fans probably have fond memories of him, but again, it's really what have you done lately for me? In the past 3 years, he hasn't been Dez Bryant. He hasn't been that game changer. Again, that falls on Tony Romo being injured, Dez not being fully healthy, and then again, Dak not really trusting himself, making those tight throws that Tony Romo used to be not afraid of.
And I mean, he hasn't had over 1,000 yards since 2014.
Yeah.
Last year he had 69 receptions, his most since that year, but because of what Dak is, only 838 receiving yards, not near that 16 touchdowns over 1,000 yards receiving he was in 2014.
Well, it's his lowest yards per reception as well in his career at 12.1.
Yeah.
So again, he was fully healthy last year, well, close to fully healthy. It wasn't 100%, but again, he was close to the Dez Bryant that we saw before. And again, it was a decent year, 838 yards, 6 touchdowns, but I don't know if that's worth the contract that you're giving him right now. So again, I just think it's really more about if Dak is going to, if this is all we've seen from Dak, then I don't think Dez Bryant is the guy to put on the outside of him. So I think that Dez's time could possibly be up in Dallas, but I think we'll probably know that once the season starts. I don't think that's going to be a move that happens from now until preseason starts.
And the thing that, going in what we just talked about, we talked about Odell Beckham. We said, what's the possibility of him being traded? If you asked me who's got the higher possibility of being traded between Dez and Odell, it's Dez.
100%.
Because number one, Dez, the Cowboys don't need Dez to make the playoffs. They don't. They didn't, let's be completely honest. That rookie year with Dak, they didn't need Dez. He had one of his lowest.
He was injured half the year.
Yeah, he only played 13 games that year in 2016. but they didn't really need him out there. Cole Beasley was really the guy that was becoming Dak Prescott's favorite target. Dak is also a guy to where he's very unselfish with it, to where he's not going to lock down and go, yeah, you're my guy, I'm going to you. Like, even like Jason Witten, where Romo was there, Jason Witten was Romo's safety blanket. Whenever he needed a big play, all right, I'm going to try to go to Jason Witten. But no, Dak spreads the ball. It's whoever is open, that's who I'm going to throw the ball to. And just the philosophy of the Cowboys right now, you've got a young quarterback who's your future. You've got one of the best, I'm going to say the best young running back in the game, if not one of the best all-time running backs right now. Not all-time, like in all-time, but like right now. Overall, like one of the top.
Zeke's a top 5 running back. Possibly top 3, too.
Why do you need, like, of course there's like, all right, we need a guy that can stretch the ball deep and go deep if we need it, but do you need such a high-calibered guy? And the thing that I felt about Dez recently, last few years, is he's kind of what T.O. kind of ventured into, where it's like you're more of a drama queen than a wide receiver. And I get the wide receiver is supposed to be a diva. That's just their personality on the field. But with Dez, it's like, all right, for the amount of headache that you give me with that, are you really worth it with what I'm going to get from you with the current roster that we have? And because his contract has this year and next year, I think that he could be a better trading piece than an Odell, because they could call up a team like we talked about in the first segment of the 49ers and go, yeah, you're probably not going to give us what you would give for Odell, but you would have Dez locked down for an extra year and not have to worry about we've got to pay him at the end of this year.
But then also there's a potential out for those teams. So if he doesn't perform the way that you want to,
you can say we're done.
Yeah, I think that if we're talking who's more likely to be traded, Odell or Dez, it's clearly Dez. But again, it's just more of what is he worth? Because again, we talked about the tiers for Odell. There's the 2 first. There's the Marcus Peters.
There's the 4 and the 4th and a second.
The 4th and the second, and then there's also the Brandon Marshall, which I think it was 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
But I think there was also what Brandon Marshall trade was that?
That they were just calling it the Brandon Marshall comp.
Okay, because I think I might be wrong on this, but I think the Marshall trade from the Bears to the Broncos, or I'm sorry, the Dolphins to the Bears, that was a 3rd and then a future pick. So I mean, like, and you look at Brandon Marshall in those days with Miami, he wasn't the same Brandon Marshall, but you were still taking a chance on him. So I think Dez is a better player than Brandon Marshall was back in Miami. But
are you talking about the trade that the Bears traded him away?
No, they brought him in.
Okay,
they brought him in. So the one that brought him in from Miami to Chicago. They traded a 3rd and a future. I could see that possibly being a deal for Dez, where it's not a second and that, because, you know, again, you're still taking on $12 million for a guy that hasn't had a 1,000-yard season in 3 years. But you're also taking on Dez Bryant, who has shown that he can be a top wide receiver in the game. It's just really, can he stay healthy? Is it going to be the right combination between him and the quarterback? And then also 3, I'm not really worried about his ego too much. No one's going to be as big as a drama queen as T.O. was, and I think if anyone's close to that right now, it's going to be Odell Beckham Jr. Dez, I think he's fiery, but I don't think he's really that big of a drama queen. I think he could really, you know, set that aside and be more of a team player. So I'm not really worried about that. It's just really, as long as Dez can be healthy and he has the right quarterback, he can be a true game changer. So I think it's if the team is right. I think, again, we talked about this earlier. I could honestly see San Francisco possibly being a team that makes that move, because if they trade back, they're going to get some picks, and then they could take some of the picks that they just got and then possibly bring in a Dez Bryant, who could be an outside threat for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, and using the Brandon Marshall comparison that you brought up was, so when the Dolphins traded him to the Bears, they got 2 third-round picks for Brandon Marshall. And the age, Brandon Marshall was going into his the 2012 season, which would have made him 28 in 2012, where Dez is a year older. He's 29 coming into this season. So you do have 1 more year. The thing that's also interesting is Brandon Marshall coming into that year was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, had 5 consecutive years of over 1,000 yards receiving. And then the next 2 years with the Bears, he had 1,000 yards before falling off in 2014 and only getting $721.
Yeah, well, Brandon also just wasn't happy in Miami. He also had that stuff with his wife going on. So
the question that I was going to ask is Dez, because it's a little bit of a different situation, and he hasn't had 5 straight years of 1,000-yard seasons. Is even the price of 2/3 too high for Dez? To where it's like, you know what, we haven't seen the production from you, or is it like, no, we're trading because of your name alone, and if we can get you for 2/3, that's a steal for us?
I would say 2/3. I would say 2/3 might be. I think that would I think Dez, not only with the name, but also taking in the fact that he's just been injured, I think that would probably drive down the price a little bit. I think 2/3 would probably be what he's worth. Maybe a third, and then a fourth that has like those different clauses on it. So like if you make the playoff, it turns into a third.
Yeah.
Something like that, or maybe like a fifth, and then if it's make the playoffs, it's a fourth, and if you make the Super Bowl, it's a third. I think that could be it, but like a third, and I don't think you're going to get a second for Dez. I don't think you're going to get a first for Dez, just because of the contract, him not being 100% healthy throughout the past 3 years, and also not being the same wide receiver for the past 3 years.
Because San Francisco could make that work. They have Chicago's third, which is the 70th overall pick, and they have their own, which is the 74th. So if they really wanted to, before the draft, like make a trade like that work, they could give the 70th and the 74th. And that'd be 2/3 for Dez Bryant.
And again, like we mentioned it, Dez is obviously a dangerous piece for Dallas. But you also mentioned Dez didn't have a great year when they made the playoffs in 2016, and they were still fine. Like, he added a different element when he was out on the field, but he wasn't 100% healthy. Cole Beasley, Jason Witten, Terrence Williams still made a decent effort. And then again, if Allen Hurns can be a playmaker on the outside, then again, you don't need Dez. So with the salary cap, with him not being 100% healthy, with having a meeting with Jerry Jones as well to discuss his future, I think that we could totally see Dez Bryant in a different uniform either at the start of the season or by the trade deadline.
Do you think he gets traded this year? Because I don't think he gets traded before the season, but he could get traded before the trade deadline, which is, in the NFL, it kind of seems weird because usually it's most times the trade deadline comes and Mark and I go, holy crap, I can't wait to what we're going to talk about. And then it's like, well, there's no trades.
There's nothing.
There were no trades that happened. It's not like baseball where it's like trades always happen at the trade deadline. Do you think that he could get traded, or not could, will he get traded by the trade deadline this year?
Yes, he will. But it won't be the San Francisco 49ers.
Who will it be to?
88 is already taken by Garrett Selleck. So he can't go to the 49ers.
Who would he go to then? Would a team like the Colts or the Titans try to reach up in there?
I don't think the Colts would.
Because the Titans also could use a main target for Marcus Mariota.
Well, they have a couple guys on the outside. I mean, Corey Davis, obviously, they drafted him high last year. Blanking on the guy's name, who's the quick Rashad Matthews. They have Rashad Matthews as well. But I think having a goal line threat, because I mean Corey Davis is a goal line threat. Like, I don't think the fit's really there with Tennessee. Like, Tennessee could always be adding weapons on the outside to help Marcus Mariota. But again, it's not that much money.
Could it be a team like the Rams who lost Sammy Watkins? A team like
I don't think it's the Rams. I think it's gonna be a team that we're not thinking of.
What about the Houston Texans?
I think Houston, no, because I mean they have have Braxton, they have DeAndre Hopkins, they have Will Fuller. I mean they have a lot of weapons on the outside. The team that I thought of, and maybe this is sacrilegious or maybe it's kind of fitting. I don't know if they want to trade him to an NFC team, but why not send him back to Lambeau? As a Bear fan, I hate saying that.
I mean,
but again, you always need help for Aaron Rodgers. They lost Jordy. If they're possibly getting desperate and thinking they need another weapon, I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be in the right taste
conspiracy theory-ish or tinfoil hat, a deal that revolves around a Dez Bryant Randall Cobb swap. Because the Packers have been, it's been rumored that they're not happy with Randall Cobb and are probably going to get rid of him at the end of this year. It wouldn't be the whole deal. It's not a straight up deal.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Just having those two be
for Draymond.
Yeah, again, I'm not even fully sold on the Packers. I just threw it out there just because you look at what they've lost. You think that they haven't been where they wanted to be lately. You look at the Kirk Cousins moves. You look at they need a big splash. Going out and getting Dez Bryant could be a big splash.
You know who's a team that could use him, but the Giants I don't think would ever trade him there. The Redskins. The Redskins could be a team. The
Cowboys would never trade.
Yes, the Cowboys would.
The Giants.
The NFC East.
Mixing NFC East. Yeah.
Really, the Cowboys would. I don't think Jerry would want to help the Redskins out at all. Like, and I would not want to see Dez twice a year. Not because it's like, oh, he's going to kill me type of thing, but it's like, if I'm trading you away, I don't want to see you twice a year. But the Redskins could be a team to where it's like their wide receivers, like, they don't have much of anything out there.
Yeah, but I mean, we haven't seen.
And now you have Alex Smith. If you compare Alex Smith with a top wide receiver.
But also, I mean, look at who Alex Smith was throwing to. Big body and Travis Kelce doesn't fit the same mold as Dez Bryant. On the outside, he was hitting Tyreek Hill.
I believe the Redskins still have Jordan Reed.
They do, but I'm saying like trying to pair up who Alex Smith has worked with throughout his career. Yeah, he hasn't really worked with a Dez Bryant type outside of Chris Conley, who was their third wide receiver last year in the Chiefs. And he didn't really succeed.
He's got Crowder. Okay, they did pick up Paul Richardson, so they got Paul Richardson.
But Paul Richardson's a speedy guy.
Jamison Crowder and Doxson are their 1, 2, 3.
And those all fit the mold. Like those are smaller guys, more possession type receivers. I think if they're going to make a trade, Jerry's going to be smart enough and get them away from the NFC. And so, again, we'd be looking at AFC East teams or AFC teams. So, again, I don't see Tennessee being a fit. I don't think the Colts will make that move. Texans, not really. Jags really don't need them. So, I mean, like, the AFC South is pretty much out. At AFC North, really, none of those teams scream needing a wide receiver. The Bengals really don't make those big of moves, and I don't think they're going to want to pair A.J. Green with Dez Bryant just because, again, that doesn't seem like a Bengal move. Maybe Miami. If Miami thinks that they need to add some help on the outside, especially with losing Jarvis.
How about Baltimore? I know they picked up Michael Crabtree, but would the Ravens think about trading for him to get a wide receiver for Flacco to throw to?
I don't think those two pair well together, and Crabtree and Dez Bryant. They don't seem like a natural fit.
Crabtree and Dez Bryant.
It'd be awesome. Yeah, let's throw it back to 2012
Crabtree pulling
or whatever.
Free, Dez Bryant trying to do his best 2014 impersonation.
You get the Red Raider and the Cowboy
and the Oklahoma State Cowboy.
Yeah, in the Big 12. But yeah, I think it's going to be more like a team like Miami maybe or maybe Buffalo if they get a young quarterback. Maybe they want to get a dangerous wide receiver on the outside, or possibly Arizona. I know that they have Larry Fitz as well, but
Fitz and Dez.
They lost John Brown as well. I know John Brown doesn't really scream Dez Bryant, but again, I think Dez, he doesn't have a crazy contract where you're going to be limiting your team, and then also there's that potential out. So I feel like the Cowboys, if they see enough from Allen Hurns, Dez could possibly go on the trading block for sure.
If Dez doesn't get traded this year, does he get traded in the offseason or 2019, or does he finish his contract out with the Cowboys?
I think he gets bought out after this year.
You think so? Do you think this year's the last year for Dez Bryant?
I have a feeling.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is the last year that Dez Bryant's going to be in a Cowboy uniform. It's nothing that I've heard because I don't talk to anybody in the NFL. It's nothing that, again, there's a writing on the wall. There's
no inside knowledge.
It's literally just a gut feeling that I think we see consistently big name wide receivers not really stick it out on their teams for life. Like Larry Fitzgerald, what he's doing is pretty much an anomaly. And we always talked about him possibly being traded. Same with Calvin. It was always, maybe the Patriots will trade for him. Maybe when's Calvin going to get free from Detroit? Like outside of Larry Fitz and Calvin Johnson and also Antonio Brown, you could throw him in there as well. Like not a lot of these great wide receivers usually stick around because they usually rub people the wrong way. And I think Dez has that ability to do so off the field. So possibly if he just might run out his time in Dallas by the end of the year, especially if he doesn't have another great season in Dallas. If he has another sub 1,000-yard receiving season, if he has another sub 1,000-yard receiving season, I think it could probably be his last year in Dallas.
Well, and for me, the way I'm kind of seeing it is, I'm going to say this year, I think he gets traded by the trade deadline. Even though I'm not super, like, that's not a prediction where it's like, man, I'm solid. It's like, I'm kind of okay on that one. But if he doesn't get traded by the trade deadline, he's going to finish out his contract with the Giants. I don't think they buy him out. I don't think Jerry.
Well, it's not a buyout. It's just an out.
Well, I don't think Jerry is that. Like, Jerry is loyal to players, and Jerry's not going to do that. Jerry will then keep him for 2019, and he will finish out his entire contract with the Dallas Cowboys.
I'll say 60% chance that he's traded by the trade deadline, and then a 90% chance that he's not on the Dallas Cowboys after the season.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below with Dez. What do you, Cowboy fans, do you like the Allen Hurns deal? What do you think Allen Hurns is going to bring to your team this year? And then most importantly, what is Dez's future with the Cowboys? Does he get traded this year? Does he finish out his entire contract? Is he bought out at the end of the year? Well, the option at the end of the year. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.